Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Rob here. Welcome to a special bonus episode for you guys of the Flame Entertainment and Sports. I'm going to be breaking down some NFL trades that have occurred within the last week. Going to start off with Geno Smith reuniting with his former head coach Pete Carroll as he becomes the next starting quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders. Then I'm going to jump into Deebo Samuel, the longtime 49er weapon, being traded to join Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, and the Washington Redskins. And then I'll also be giving my thoughts on my guy, my favorite tight end of all time, Mike Gesicki, signing a 3-year contract to stay as a member of the Cincinnati Bengals. Then I'm going to move on to two guys who have requested trades within the last couple of months here. We have DK Metcalf, the wideout from the Seattle Seahawks, and then we have arguably the best pass rusher in all of football in Cleveland Browns superstar Myles Garrett. Now, with all that said, let's get into it. Starting off with Geno Smith reuniting with Pete Carroll with the Raiders. All right, guys. So to start off here, I want to give my thoughts on Geno Smith being traded from the Seattle Seahawks in exchange for a third-round pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. Geno Smith has officially reunited with his former head coach Pete Carroll. I haven't actually covered Pete Carroll, joining the Raiders on here on the podcast. Since the Super Bowl, I haven't, covered football. Just kind of, give some time away from it, and I felt there wasn't anything like very newsworthy to really like focus on an episode here. But with that said, Pete Carroll, he was one of the new, head coaching hires this offseason after, allegedly parting ways, quote unquote parting ways, but it kind of seems like Seattle kind of forced him out after, last season. Then, this past season, Pete Carroll stayed unemployed, but he did not retire from coaching, and now he's become, the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, and now he's acquired his quarterback. Many people are wondering if, the Raiders are going to try to go after Aaron Rodgers in free agency, maybe bring in Zach Wilson or Daniel Jones. And even some people are wondering if they're going to trade up in the draft to try to draft, maybe Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, one of those guys in the first round. But look, they've made their move. And honestly, one of the main things, before I get into my take on Geno and the Raiders, one of the main things I love about the Raiders doing this trade already is that they're being aggressive and they're not wasting any time. They decided, look, Geno's our guy. Let's go and get him. And I think that's super smart, especially as we head into free agency now within the next couple of days. I feel it's really smart that they got this out of the way. And now officially the free agents who, they're interested in, now the free agents, let's say you're a receiver, a tight end, an offensive weapon, you're going to be like, okay, Geno's going to be my quarterback. If they would have waited maybe till late in free agency or all the way to the draft in April, I feel like they would have missed out on a couple, guys that they might be interested in free agency. And obviously, I think one of the big things we're going to have to look at here with the Raiders is their weapons overall. On offense, I feel like they're lacking at receiver. They're lacking at running back. I don't think that's shocking to anyone when you look at, what they had there this past season. But obviously, they did find a superstar tight end in the first round last year out of Georgia, Brock Bowers. He had arguably the greatest, rookie season by a tight end in NFL history. He just looked unbelievable out there. He looked like he'd been a pro in the NFL for 10 years, honestly. I'm a big Brock Bowers fan. So now to talk about Geno Smith. So Geno Smith, to me, this is one of those guys that, like, I don't know how you can't root for him. For those of you that don't remember, when he came out of West Virginia all those years ago, many people had him being a first-round pick. He did not get picked in the first round. Then the second round, he's picked by the Jets. He started for them for a couple years. Ultimately, the Jets, kind of parted ways with Geno. Then he became a backup for the Chargers. Then he joined Seattle, and he became the longtime backup there to Russell Wilson. Then, the offseason where Russell Wilson parted ways with the Seahawks and joined the Broncos, Geno was still on the roster in Seattle, but it was looking like Drew Lock, who Seattle acquired in the Russell Wilson trade, it was the favorite, to begin training camp to be the starter. But, ultimately Geno took over. He won the starting battle, and the rest is history. He's had a couple great years there as a starter in Seattle. I'm a really big fan of Geno overall. His story, like I said, Him as a quarterback, I really love as well. I believe he could win a Super Bowl, definitely with Geno Smith. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. To me, I'll say off the top of my head a minimum a top 15 quarterback. That might be shocking maybe to some of you, but I just think Geno is so damn good. He's super consistent, and he's also one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league still. I feel like people still look back at his early days with the Jets and all his years as a backup for Russell Wilson. But I very much believe in Geno, and I love him joining the Raiders here. And as for the Raiders side, I absolutely love it. I already talked about the timing of going out and getting your guy early, but I love the fit as well. And I think my favorite part of this whole thing is that Geno and Pete Carroll are reunited. And Pete Carroll is the coach. One of the main reasons why Geno, ended up developing into a starter in the NFL late into his career after being a backup for a while. And I think, them reuniting is just perfect. They both know each other like literally perfectly. So there's not going to be an adjustment, any adjustments there for them to build a relationship. They already have one on and off the field. They know how each other works. They know what each of them expects from one another. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Now later down the line, we're gonna talk about another Seahawk player who could be on the move pretty soon, and DK Metcalf, the wide receiver. And obviously the Raiders are definitely in the market for a wide receiver, but we'll get into that later. Now we're going to move on to my thoughts on Deebo Samuel, the longtime 49er weapon being traded to the Washington Commanders for a fifth-round pick. Deebo has 1 year left on his contract. He wanted an extension. 49ers said no, and I absolutely agree. I think what Deebo did in this past year was absolute disrespectful. He was definitely not in shape while he was playing. He was not really that good, as good as he's been in the past. He had a lot of drop balls. And then he kind of there's just something I feel like this happens especially with wide receivers in the NFL. You think of Deebo, like I said, you think of Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs. A lot of these guys are just some of the biggest divas in football. And I just didn't really like his attitude there, especially when he's been part of one of the most winning organizations in recent memory in the NFL. Yes, I know they haven't won a Super Bowl, but I mean, they've been competing every single year in the Kyle Shanahan era, John Lynch era. They compete every single year, and you can never count out the 49ers. So I definitely agree with this move. It was time to move on from Deebo Samuel. I think this is going to be great, actually, for San Francisco. And I think it's kind of good. You're going to see an effect that, let's go back to last offseason when Buffalo, parted ways with Stephon Diggs and he joined the Texans. At the time, many people were, criticizing Buffalo. Buffalo's not going to make it anywhere, this and that. And look how Buffalo did this year with a wide receiver room that didn't have any big names. I felt like it was the best overall group performance by the Bills receivers in a long time. And I think it's going to be the same thing happening in San Francisco next season. And specifically, I can't wait to see what Ricky Pearsall does in his sophomore season. Now to talk about, the Commanders, I actually like the move for Washington. I like it because Washington is obviously in a position right now where 2 seasons ago, they have the second worst record in the league. They draft Jaden Daniels second overall. And now this past season, they finished in the NFC Championship, which was just absolutely mind-blowing. So I do agree that they are only a couple pieces away, and perhaps they believe that Deebo, is one of those pieces. And I mean, to give up a fifth round for, one of the best weapons in all of football, I say, what do you really have to lose there? So I really like this for Washington. It just scares me in terms of Deebo's attitude. I hope he doesn't bring any negativity or friction, especially in such a young locker room with Jaden Daniels. But then you look at the receiver core and Washington, led by Terry McLaurin. He's one of the top leaders on the team, and I know he won't put up if Deebo's trying to create some drama. I know Terry won't put up with that, so it's going to be interesting to see how Deebo's, Deebo, how he acts going forward, and how Washington is able to, handle his dynamic personality. Now to move on to my guy, my favorite tight end of all time, Mike Gesicki. I want to say congratulations to him and his family. He just signed a 3-year deal worth $25 million to remain a member of the Cincinnati Bengals. For those of you that don't know, on our recent episode, I talked about wanting Mike Gesicki to be back in Miami and be paired up with Geno Smith. So my dream's already gone in terms of the dream tight end who I wanted with Miami. But with that said, I couldn't be happier for Mike. I said it on the previous episode too. Last year was the most that Mike's been used in a very long time. So I'm hoping he truly found a home there in Cincinnati, and I'm always going to be rooting him on and hoping for the best for Mike and his family going forward, as always. So, he signed a 3-year deal, as I said, $25 million. The Bengals have officially committed to one of the top pass-catching tight ends in the league. I think this is a super smart move. It's a bargain of a contract for them as well. And yeah, overall, I just love the move for both of them. Now to get into two guys who have requested trades. I'm going to start off with the most recent guy. I brought him up a couple minutes ago, and I was talking about Geno Smith. That's DK Metcalf, the former number one receiver of Geno Smith for the last couple of years. And, DK's been a great receiver in his career. Has he been a superstar? I would say no. But has he been a star level player? I would say yes. With that said, DK, he's going to be a free agent soon. He wanted a new contract from Seattle. Seattle, didn't offer him what he wanted. And ultimately, he's requested a trade. I'm going to pull up some teams here in Vegas, some of the favorites. So right now, the Chargers, the Patriots, the Texans, and the Las Vegas Raiders. That's the team I'm keeping my eye on specifically for DK Metcalf in this one. Pete Carroll got back his quarterback from Seattle now in Vegas, and I think he's going to do everything he can to encourage the Raiders front office to bring back his former number one receiver with him and reunite with him and Geno in Las Vegas. So I think DK will be a member of the Las Vegas Raiders pretty soon. But, perhaps the Chargers or the Patriots could also, come up with a nice offer to Seattle. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. And then finally, our final topic on today's show, we're going to be, diving into Myles Garrett. I believe like a month ago, I don't know if it was around the Super Bowl or before that. Can't remember exactly because it's been a while. He requested a trade from Cleveland. And, I wasn't shocked by it. Obviously, Cleveland's in a terrible situation right now. Garrett's only getting older. He's still great. He's still arguably the best defensive player in the league. But with that said, he is getting older. And at the end of the day, he really wants to win. And it doesn't look like anytime soon Cleveland's going to be able to compete for any winning situation, any championship, if that makes sense. So I completely agree with this decision by Myles Garrett. I'm not a big trade request guy, but it depends. Obviously, always to me on the situation. And in this situation, I definitely agree with Myles Garrett wanting out of Cleveland. It's going to be interesting to see what team tries to, acquire him. I'm sure most of the teams in the league are going to be interested. Here's some of the favorites right now in Vegas. We have the Commanders, the Eagles, the Bills, and the Detroit Lions. Out of that group right there, I don't know. I'm not really feeling any of them specifically. Maybe perhaps the Bills or the Lions. Maybe the Lions could pull off a package to land Garrett. That'd be incredible to have him alongside Aiden Hutchinson. And also, I think he'd be a great fit in the Bills, a team I haven't heard. And they're fine on the defensive line, but a sleeper for me, the team I've felt for a while, because he mentioned specifically winning, and that team to me is the Kansas City Chiefs. I know the Eagles are in the odds there too. Obviously, that'd be absolutely mind-blowing if they're able to add Myles Garrett to their already elite defense in Philly. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really keeping my eye on Kansas City specifically in this Myles Garrett trade situation. But yeah, guys, with all that said, I'm going to wrap up this bonus episode for you, a special weekend Saturday night edition of the Flame Entertainment and Sports. I just, within the last couple of days, ever since talking about the Dolphins free agency on our last episode, I've been, extra pumped up and re-energized within the football world after taking a couple weeks away from it. It feels great to be back in it. Wednesday, as I said in the last episode, teams officially can begin speaking with free agents. So stay tuned here. We're going to have a lot of content with free agency coming your way. And God willing, after that, with NFL draft content as well in April. So, yeah, guys, with all that said, if you guys have any opinions on any of these topics we covered today, Geno Smith to the Raiders, Deebo Samuel to Washington, Mike Gesicki staying in Cincy, the DK Metcalf trade request, and the Myles Garrett trade request, make sure to send us your thoughts on Instagram or TikTok at @theflame_ES. We'd love to hear your opinions. And yeah, guys, with all that said, fins up. Until next time, everyone, take care.